And I was kind of getting ready to put my hand up, like that to take vibhuti, but then Swami actually stopped shake, and then he actually held his hand up like that, and I couldn't see it because I was right next under him, so I couldn't quite see what was going on. But and I saw a lot of people started clapping, and then he brought his hand down, and it was a ring.
Sairam, dear listeners, welcome to Sai SOUL 100. Our guest today is Brother Anil Chandramani. Sairam, Brother Anil, thank you for joining Sai SOUL 100. Please share your story.
Thank you, Sister Piraba, for inviting me to this. And of course, that comes all with Swami's grace and his desire. So I hope he will work through us so that the listeners and everybody can make the best out of this experience. So, so the first thing that I uh, wanted to share was that I had, when my father first met Swami in 1975, I was 15 years old. And he just met him he was in Bangalore, and one of his colleagues said, I'm going to meet Sai Baba. As far as I know, we'd never heard of him because I grew up in Bihar, in Patna, which is northern India. Swami had never visited there. He was not known at all over there, as far as I knew, until when my father came back and he said that he'd met Sai Baba and he brought some books. Yes, it's been a long journey from 15, and now next year I'm going to be 65, so it's going to be 50 years since I've started. I've been with Swami. In fact, my parents, my parents changed very quickly. So in 75 itself, they became vegetarian, and we started having daily bhajans at home in 75 itself. So it was very quick. But it turned out that we found one other family in Patna that was a Sai devotee at that time. So it was interesting. So we used to go there, and this family was very blessed. This lady, Mrs. Mehrotra, she had a thing that she could go into the interview room whenever she wanted. So she didn't have to be called. But if she had something, she would just go and sit, and everybody knew nobody would stop her. They knew that she had that. So she had she was very blessed. But anyway, so that was one part of it, and that helped. That experience helped me a lot. So what I thought was I would share mm, maybe a couple of the lessons that I have learned, which at least I've learned, as I said, over 50 years, a lot of things, but maybe the two most important experiences, two most important lessons. And one of them, I think, is about the role of the mind. And the other one is about getting over fear. So the first one, I think Swami has said this. So, Swami has said all of these things, as we know, he's given so many lectures. But sometimes, by just listening, uh, we don't experience it. And ultimately, when you really talk about learning a lesson, it is when you have experienced it, when you have lived that experience. So one day I was sitting in darshan line. Um, I was in the second row, and at a nice place where Swami would come. Um, and somebody else came and sat down. And, I was in Singapore in those days, living in Singapore, so I was wearing a Singapore scarf. So somebody came and sat down next to me and said, "Oh, where are you from?" So I said, "Singapore." So this gentleman kind of laughed and next to me, and he says, "Yeah, okay, but when Swami asks, you have to say, 'I'm from you.'" That students have taught me that the right answer when Swami says, "Where are you from?" the right answer is, "I'm from you." So I said, "Okay, sounds good," and we chatted. And to cut a long story short, basically, just before the Swami comes, before the music starts, the Seva Dal comes and sits down. They're standing up, and then they come and sit down on their little cushion. And so this Seva Dal was almost right in front of me. So he came and sat down, and there were three foreigners sitting in front of me. relatively big guys, tall guys. And so they were sitting very comfortably, occupying a lot of space. So the Sevadal guy came and he looked at them and he says, move, like, come closer, come closer. So, they said, why? What's the problem? And he said, no, you're taking up too much space. And so they had an argument, these three foreigners had an argument with the Sevadal guy. And for whatever reason, the Sevadal insisted that you have to move. And these guys were very upset, but they moved because they had to. And then this guy, the Sevadal, told me, you move into that little space he created in front next to him. So I said, okay. So I moved in there. And of course, the foreigner sitting next to me, they looked at me and said, so what's the big deal? You were there. I said, look, no big deal, but, he told me to come. I don't want to fight. And, then the music started. And I said, look, Swami is coming. Let's not make a big fuss out here because Swami won't come, if there's so much negativity. As he came to our side, he moved to as far to the other side of the aisle as he could. So his robe was almost touching the people opposite us. He was as close, as far away from us as he could. So he was crossing by, and by then, of course, me and the foreigners, we looked at each other and we said, yeah, that's what we expected to do, because we had been fighting till a few seconds ago. And so he went, and then as he crossed them and he was crossing me, and then suddenly when he was across from me, he just turned around over there and he looked at me and said, where have you come from? And it happened so suddenly, and I said, Singapore, Swami. He said, what? I said, Singapore. He said, what? And I said, Singapore again. And in the meantime, I had a letter in my hand, so I reached out with the letter as much as I could stretch out, and he is stretched out. And there was just enough for his, the two fingers to, catch the letter. And then he immediately, the whole thing probably took like few seconds, literally 3 seconds, 5 seconds, whatever. And he turned around and then he was gone. And as soon as he left, the guy who was now sitting behind me, he tapped me on my shoulder and he said, remember what I told you? And I said, oh my God, I forgot completely. And to me, the lesson was that don't try to be too smart with me. Okay. If you really believe that I come from you, then it's one thing. Or, when people say that, I say, call somebody brother, and, Swami said, okay, is he really your brother, or are you just using that word arbitrarily? Most of us just use it arbitrarily. We don't really, unless we are, I wouldn't say everybody, but, most of the time we use these words casually. And so, and then I kind of, what happened was that next 14, 15 days after that incident, I was still in Puttaparthi, but, Swami had completely ignored me. Now, no talk, no letter, no vibhuti, no interview, no nothing, absolutely. I'm just sitting there and every day, and how it is. And I'm talking back in 1998. It's a long time ago. I was relatively young also, and so I, tried the usual things, which many of us try. Again, at least I used to try it. But first I said, oh, Swami, please give me an interview. I'll be very good. So I tried to make a deal with him. So a few days I promised, I'll do very good. This and that. So that didn't work. Then I kind of complained saying, you don't care for me, blah, blah, blah. So, that didn't work. So. And then there's a whole other part of the story. But basically, it turned out that we were told that the next day, Swami was going to, there was a group of us, it's a family group, that we were going to be called onto the veranda to sit on the veranda and maybe an interview or whatever. Mr. Chakravarti was, was very close to, did a lot of he was supposed to come and take us into the thing. So we were waiting outside, somewhere we were told to wait, this whole group of us. And Mr. Chakravarti was supposed to come. And of course, the music started, which means the darshan was going to start, and Mr. Chakravarti was still not there. And I kind of said, oh, well, we are going to miss the darshan as well. But in my mind, I also said, well, that's been the pattern for the last 15, 16 days, so it's okay. So Swami didn't want darshan. Oh, fine, not a problem. And then, of course, Mr. Chakravarti came suddenly and he said, let's go. And he came and I said, how are we going to go now? The music has started and darshan has started. And Mr. Chakravarti just shrugged and said, Swami said to bring you now. And so we got to go. And I said, okay. So we entered through, the division between the ladies and the gents side. There's that ramp that goes down where Swami's car goes down. So we walked up that ramp, and right in the middle of the darshan, and Swami had just crossed over. As I realized that I was walking up, that he had just crossed over from the lady side to the gent side, and he had also stopped giving darshan because this whole row of men. The women had come from the other side, so they were less distracting. But all of us were walking right through the middle, and I guess everybody was looking at us, and I was also feeling really stupid about kind of just cutting through the darshan like that. And in my mind, I was saying, why now? We could have done it 5 minutes earlier. We could have done it 5 minutes later. But we're cutting through the darshan, and so again, my mind was in a bit of a turmoil, and it's kind of important in the context of what happens later. So we walked in, and we got to and of course, since the darshan was going on, everybody's quiet. We are trying to do everything quickly. So Mr. Chakravarti seats everybody in front of the interview room, and then he looks around, and there's no space, and I'm still standing. So he's got space for everybody, but there's no space for me. And so Mr. Chakravarti looks at me and says, "Well, I don't know what to do." And then he points to a place towards the middle of the veranda, and he says, "Oh, there's a place there. Let's go there." And so again, I said, "Okay, great. Right on cue, just like he's been ignoring me for the last 15 days. Today too, he's put everybody else in the group right outside the interview room, and I get, pushed off to the far away. Far away still, it was still on the veranda, but And then he started coming down the aisle. And as he was walking down the aisle where I was seated, he was again had his back towards me. And again, I said, fine, that's exactly what, on cue. And by then I really was kind of okay with it. And I was not questioning, not saying that, oh, Swami, look at me or whatever. His back was towards me. And I said, yeah, that's fine. So I'd really come to totally accept it, to the extent that, as he was coming, I was looking at all the people who he was talking to, and his back was towards me. So I was looking at the next guy saying, okay, I wonder, okay, what is he going to say? Because everybody was sitting and looking up at Swami. And then suddenly I saw that everybody had turned around and I saw that this guy who I was looking at was suddenly looking at me. So I said, well, why is he looking at me? I should be looking at Swami. And then, and Swami had been talking. So yeah, I could hear him talking. And then suddenly I looked up and I realized that Swami had just turned around and he was talking to me apparently. And I had kind of heard what he was saying, but I thought it was directed at somebody else. And so, but when I looked up, by then he had stopped talking, he was asking his questions, and he was looking at me. And then in my mind, I started replaying what he had said, and I realized that what he said was, oh, you're here. When did you come? And what do you want from me? And I had assumed that those questions were directed at somebody else, so I was not thinking about it. So I just kept quiet. And there was silence. So Swami was silent looking at me. I was silent, and everybody was silent. And Swami's face became quite angry. It kind of frowned, really very angry looking at it. But he was just, his face was just a few feet from me, right? 2-3 feet from me. So, and I was looking into his eye to eye. And at that point, I saw kind of two beams of light come out of his eye into my eyes, literally two beams like that, and into my eyes, and kind of burn everything inside. But then he started smiling at that instant, and started moving his hand like that. So I said, okay, he's gonna give me vibhuti, and I was kind of getting ready to put my hand up, like that to take vibhuti, but then Swami actually stopped shaking, and then he actually held his hand up like that, and I couldn't see it because I was right next under him, so I couldn't quite see what was going on. And I saw a lot of people started clapping, and then he brought his hand down, and it was a ring, and then he put his so this ring, he put it on my hand, and he held my hand, and he said some things like Swami size, right size, no going to jeweler, no cutting, no twisting, no changing. Swami size, right size. So, of course, I wasn't thinking, it's just happening too fast. And then he stopped. And when he stopped, I didn't know what to say. So I just said, Swami, can I take Pad Namaskar? And he said, yes, yes. So he pushed my head down. So I put my head on his feet, and then he walked on. Because, several months later, something, very bad was happening in my life. And I was complaining to Swami. I was, in meditation or whatever. It was kind of, I was really complaining to him, saying, what do you want me to do? Should I, go and do this? Should I do that? Whatever. I was very agitated. And I think it was, I was doing my daily meditation when in the meditation, I think Swami appeared. And he said that, uh, when I give you the ring, I said Swami size, right size. But I also said, no going to jeweler, no cutting, no twisting, no changing. Swami size, right size. So I said, if the size was right for you, why would I say no going to jeweler, no cutting, no twisting, no changing? But so the ring was a little bit loose. It was not the right size for me. And I had actually thought a little bit about, what should I do? And, should I go to a jeweler? Should I cut it? And I really had not connected with what he had said later, but it was just in my mind. But he said that, but I told you, no changing. So he said, whatever is happening in your life, even though it looks like it's bad for you, wrong for you, it is what I want for you. It is what is right for you. So don't go seek anybody else's help. Don't try to change it. At the right time, I will change it for you. And at the right time, I will also change. I'll change also the size of the ring for you. So that was the first one. This was in a separate conversation later. He said that it is important you get rid of all of these things so that you can purify yourself and therefore be able to play the role that I want you to play. And that, with all this baggage that you're carrying from the past, you are not able to play that role. So that was one thing. The other thing that he also told me that in this context, of course, he told me all of this, but again, we take time to learn these lessons. And I was again complaining a lot about it. And so once I remember saying that you don't care for me, you don't care a damn, whatever. I was so by the way, my relationship with Swami has always been very much a lot of honest talking. So I talk to him like I talked with a friend. So I would say that, you don't care a damn for me, you're throwing me to the wolves and, okay, whatever. And then he again came and said that he, when I gave you the ring, you remember that day I gave it to you on the veranda? And I said, yes. And he says, I could have given it to you the next day. And so as it happened that, that day he said that I'll give you an interview the next day. So he said that, I could have given it to you the next day like I gave it to others, but I gave it to you the previous day outside. And I said, why? Why? He says, do you remember that when I created it, I showed it to all the people there, and then I put it on your finger there. So I acknowledged you publicly as mine. And do you think I would do that if I didn't care for you? Do you think that I would do that if I just wanted to throw you to the dogs, as I was saying? All of these things had a reason. And I guess the 15 days of cold shoulder he had given me had also mentally prepared me in that way where I was no longer. And so, yeah, the other thing is, another thing. So another one of my meditations when I was still trying to figure it out. And I was saying that, look, I don't care what you're saying about all these past karmas and all that, push it to another year, another lifetime. I don't care right now. I'm done with it. So I feel that his mission is to show us the right path. I think helping us make the right choices. I think the divine never says that I will make the right choice for you, because that is very easy. The whole world can become okay if the divine just says that, okay, I'll make the choice for everybody. But I think the divine allows us to make our choices and face the consequences for everything you do, whether it's good or bad. You're free to make whatever choices you want and live with the consequences of those choices. So I think Swami's mission was to help us make the right choices more and more often, and therefore, which in turn will help us make our lives better in the future. And the other thing I wanted to talk about was why fear when I am here. To me, I think that has been the most uh, powerful thing in terms of making change. I feel that fear is what makes a lot of us inadvertently or often make wrong choices. Because we fear that I need to protect myself from the uncertain, from whatever is going to happen. So, I feel that, for example, people want to accumulate money. Why? Because money is sitting in the bank, so it's not doing me any good now. But we think that this money will be there to help me in case something goes wrong tomorrow. Why do people want power? Why do you want lots of friends? Or, why do you want to be popular? So people want it because they think that in bad times, all of these things will come to be of. So there's the ego part as well. Yes, the ego, but there is, in addition to that, there's the fear part that, some of these things we feel that will help us in times of need. One of the things that I was complaining to Swami about and saying that, oh, you know what, when you ask me what do you want from me, I should have said, I want you to fix my problems. Instead, I said, just your love, Swami, just to be at your lotus feet forever. So I said, does that mean that you're never going to fix any of my problems? And so he said that, yeah, I knew that, if I gave you the chance, you're going to ask for something stupid. You're going to say something stupid. So, and that's why I had to get your mind out of the way. And so when your mind, when I was able to move your mind out of the way, then what you said was what came from your heart, what you really wanted, not from the short-term problems of the mind. So that's what I want to say. That's the other thing, that the mind is both necessary and an obstacle, and each one of us needs to figure out that way in which we can control the vagaries of the mind, but continue to use it in the right way in order to make progress. So it's something, again, it's not easy. There are no formulas for it, but it's just constant vigilance, constantly using one's intelligence and discrimination.
So during this incident, this one trip is where the clarity came through on how the mind gets in our way of our progress, as well as recognizing that we are driven by fear.
Yes.
Both were addressed in these set of experiences that you had. It started off with, of course, you said your mind got agitated when you sat on that first row with having uncomfortable conversations in everybody's part in that energy, right? And you knew full well that Swami is not going to like it, but that's the situation you were presented with.
Correct.
Right? And then walking across in the middle of darshan also, whether it's right or wrong, that's what you had to do. So your mind was fully agitated. Yes. You were not in the place of seeing Swami. And when Swami is giving darshan to people, you're watching the people.
Yes.
And so when Swami was looking at you and talking, you didn't even know Swami was talking to you, right?
Correct.
And all of that is showing how disconnected you were and okay with it. But yet Swami didn't let go of you.
Yeah.
He still chose to see you. Absolutely. Right? He still made that eye contact with you, even though he was looking at you in a very firm and maybe angry kind of way. But it was also something that you needed when that light from his eyes went into your eyes.
Correct.
Right? And to cleanse you or to give you a fresh start. So he was still forgiving of his child.
Absolutely.
Right. And so, and that's a wonderful message for all of us, really, because we do make mistakes. We do have agitated minds, and we do have scenarios and situations where we are not the best of ourselves, but we are still his children, and he will always, always come and look out for us. Right. Okay. And I love the fact that you mentioned nothing is accidental. Every single one of these collectively gave you the experience that
Correct.
you are able to reflect on, right?
Correct.
And I love your statement of Swami's size is the right size. And I think that goes beyond just your ring.
Yep. Absolutely.
Right.
That's
and
exactly
then
what he said that.
and then when you hindsight, keep reflecting back on all of these, you can, I think that naturally the fear disappears.
Yep.
Because you know he's got your back. You know that he's guiding you, whether we recognize it or not. And you know that he will always, always be there for us.
Absolutely.
Right. And little by little chiseling away our karma.
Yeah.
And although we are impatient, but it will take time, but he's very patiently removing our karma and allowing us to connect with him by giving his grace to us.
Absolutely.
Sairam, Brother Anil, thank you for being here at Sai Soul 100.
Thank you very much, Sister Piroba.
Jai Sairam. Sairam, dear listeners, thank you for listening to Sai Soul 100 with Brother Anil Chandramani. I'm Prabha Swaminathan. Until next time, Jai Sairam.